I want to shift over. Since we were speaking about Austin Tice, we've had a new guest join us, Mohammad Mosaed. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes.
Jason, you are the only one of us on the panel who spent time in prisons. We wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about those things. How things are going in Iran related to the jailing of journalists, and Mohammed is somebody who is a special guest of yours. So if you'd like to make some introductions on Mohammed.
Sure. Mohammad Mosaed is a journalist from Iran. He has been living here in the United States for almost a year.
Yeah.
Arrived here under similarly harrowing circumstances as Zaki Daryabi, and had spent a significant amount of time in the same prison that I did, Evin prison in Tehran, over a tweet.
Yeah.
And now he's here, and I think we're super thankful that he's here. He is part of a group of journalists in Iran who have continued to be critical of the government, to uncover corruption, financial corruption within the regime, which is rampant in Iran, and in some ways made him public enemy number one. And I think that it's a testament to the press freedom community that we stood up for Mohammed when he was in trouble back in 2020, and here he is now, but similarly exiled from his homeland, but continuing to stay on top of the cases in his country. I guess I'll ask the first question, and I would love it, because I know a lot about Iran and have spent time there, but what I want to know is, what is it like to leave your country and come to the United States and try and establish yourself as a journalist reporting on Iran from the United States?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. It's too hard. It's a nightmare for every journalist to have a long distance like that, and they I can't speak even with my family, and it's a valid fear in anybody in my country to speak with me and people like me, and it's the worst situation for every journalist in the world to work in situation like that. Yeah. Because we can't speak with people fairly, we can't travel to Iran, we can see anything in directly, and it can be worse every day by every day, because someday we can't figure out what happens in our country, and I think you exercise that for many years, and you can see people who lived our country 10 years ago have big problems, that people likes me, but there is some journalists can't see Iran, couldn't see Iran for 20 years. It's worse than that, and when you can do your job in country like Iran, the big problem is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And it's the biggest problem about countries like Iran and doing this job in these countries.
You've been here now for 10 months, 11 months.
Yes.
11. You just received the permission to work in this country.
Yes.
How can the United States, the bureaucratic system, but also the press freedom community, support you in establishing yourself in this country and allowing you to return to the important work of covering Iran?
Yeah, my dream is I have a platform in this country to say about Iran. Because you can see I haven't a good English yet, but I'm a new guy from that country.
Yeah.
10 years in future, probably I have a good English, but I'm an old guy from that country.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. I know a platform to say about Iran today, not 10 years in future.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, we really need to support he and people like Zaki. They're connected right now to the pulse of what's going on. It's been 6 years since I was released from Iran. I still write about Iran. I often said that if I left this place, I would stop writing about it. But then I realized in this town, there's nobody that's been there more recently than me.
Yeah.
Except this guy.
Yeah, that's true.
And you knew Mohammed. So I think this gets to the point that we were talking about earlier, which is we have the technology now to empower people like Mohammed to still continue to build a network, people like Zaki, to continue to do journalism. And the other thing that I think is so important is if you have to leave your country, and you leave everything that's familiar to you, your network, your language, your family, the one thing we should be able to give you here in the United States of America is your job, your profession, which is built into our Constitution. We should support journalists doing journalism here to send to your home countries. And I think that's one of the biggest contributions we could make for world democracy. And it's so important for the world. It's also important, it's important politically because it helps beat down corruption and advance democracy. But it's important psychologically. I mean, the Afghan journalist who's going to come to Mizzou, he and I were having dinner, and he's like you, he's learning English. And I said, you must be exhausted because you must be thinking, but there's a really smart person in here, if only I could speak the English. But he pulled out his phone and he showed me his beautiful family. And he said, I had a really nice life in Afghanistan. I had a big family. I had a lot of friends. I had a good job. And I thought, I can't give you your family back. I can't give you your friends back, but I can give you journalism.
Yeah, and I think that we need to do more to support that. I've known so many people like Mohammed, like my own wife, like Zaki. I think if you did a survey of all of these folks, if they had their druthers, they'd be back in their home country doing their job. And there is a real need for the information, insight, and analysis that these folks can provide us here. I have called for both in my columns at the Post, but also in conversations with folks in government, to streamline the process for folks like Zaki and Mohammed who are arriving here, who can contribute to our understanding of their homelands. Streamline the process of getting work authorization. And Mohammed had the benefit of the press freedom community behind him. It still took 10 months for him to come to this country and start working. That's unacceptable. So, we need to do whatever we can to make that right, but also to help kickstart his journalism and Zaki's journalism and do whatever we can to promote that.
And just for now, Mohammed is actually working at the National Press Club, doing some IT work for us until you can begin working again as a journalist, and I hope that's soon for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's fantastic. The National Press Club is doing such important work, keeping cases like this to the fore and providing a place for journalists to gather and work and keep doing their jobs and keep having that connection with other journalists.
It's part of our, I'm sorry, I just want to say one thing, and we'll go. It's part of the club's mission, but I have to single out Bill McCarran,
yes, amen.
Uncle Bill, the guardian angel of in troubled journalists.
It's a growth industry.
Unfortunately.
Mohammed's personal story, though, of leaving Iran, I wonder if you could take us through. You were in prison, you you knew your fate. For some reason, they released you for a little while, and then what happened?
Yeah, I decided to leave my country, so I just buy a ticket for the Turkish border. I moved that, and then I just started to walking.
He didn't have a passport.
Yeah, the government took my passport, and
Right.
I hadn't right to travel with the flight or others. So I was walking in the mountains for one day to cross the countries. That was a winter, so
It was the winter.
yeah, I was frozen. Then, honestly, I was thinking about that. So, I'm dying here, but let find somewhere to die. Then someone can find your body for your families. I just working for that, for a good place to die, not for freedom, not for leaving the country in that situation. But finally, I found the border points. So I climbed a hill, and then I found just one single signal for emergency call.
On his cell phone, yeah.
Yeah, in my cell phone. My first cell phone was died. The second one just have around 15% battery. Then I called to the Turkish emergency service, and I said, I'm Mohammed, I'm a journalist, I'm in your border, and I'm dying here. And they sent the soldiers in that place. I just said my geographical locations with the Google Maps, and they found me. And after that, I was in the hospital, and I think Jason knows better about after that because I was in hospital.
Quickly, we received news from a fellow journalist, and when I say we, the Committee to Protect Journalists through my wife Yegi, that Mohammed had fled the country and was hospitalized, but also that he most likely faced imminent deportation back to Iran. And so CPJ sprang into action. They put out a statement that same night calling on Turkish authorities not to deport him. They were able to hire a lawyer for him. And I'm not sure how effective that person was, but the interventions of CPJ stopped the process. And it made it possible for them to connect Mohammed with U.S. diplomats based in Turkey. And these cases are never easy. I mean, there is a vetting process that has to go on. Turkey is a country that is not safe for Iranians. Mohammed was there
or journalists.
Exactly, especially Iranian journalists, right? Middle Eastern journalists. You're there 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months in semi-hiding.
Yes.
In Ankara.
In many cities.
In many cities, moving around.
Yeah.
Again, this is an established journalist who's won prizes by international press freedom organizations. It still took us, we've been at this for a year and a half. I thank everybody for their support of Mohammed, but we can do so much better, so much faster. And I'm just so excited that he's here, that he's safe, that he's free, that he has his voice back. Now it's on us in this community to amplify his voice.
I mean, I've never heard of anyone walking across the land border from Iran. Has it ever been done before?
People do it sometimes.
People do sometimes. It's not a good end, but
Yeah.
It's nobody's
sometimes,
choice.
yeah.
Nobody's
No,
first
no.
choice. Yeah.
If you see the film Argo and you look at the mountains outside of Tehran, there's snow. These are
It's treacherous.
10,000 feet,
12,000.
12,000 feet.
Yeah.
This is a crazy
Incredible.
Yeah,
feat.
many people lost their lives. Yeah, that,
I see. Yeah.
can I say something?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to say it's not about the Iranian journalist. It's about you in Iran situation, because you can travel to Iran, same of us. The free media can't do work in Iran. None of the free media, mass media haven't the office in Iran in this situation. And Iran is the bottom of the list of ranking. Today, RSF said about Iran, it's 178 in 180 countries. And just the Eritrea and North Korea have a worse than Iran. And I think it's a valid question. If the West, if the free world can keep the cameras on in the Iran nuclear facility,
Yeah.
why they can't keep the media cameras on in Iran streets? I want to say, if you are a journalist in the United States, keeps your government accountable about your rights to report from Iran for Iranians and for other peoples.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very well said.
Yes, yes.